Alright, so it looks like we're up and running. So I've got my dog here. He's upset because my wife left um, to go to an appointment, and I tried settling him down, but he just won't settle down. I ended up coming home from work early today, not to do this video, but because I've had a problem respiratory, and I ended up having to get like a steroid injection and all kinds of stuff. But I figured since I got the time, let's take a look at what we're looking at here. So my big fear with Khorne was going to be that they could not handle manifestations. That because they were going to be a priest army, I would be at a big disadvantage for dispelling manifestations. So as you can see by this rules snippet I have, it's actually not relevant. A priest banishes manifestations and incantations the same way a wizard would. So as long as I have priests in my army, I'm just as effective at banishing endless spells as a wizard army. And Khorne does have a way to get +1 to his chanting. I don't know if it affects this. In fact, I'm not sure that anything affects these banishment rolls. But I was happy to see that. I don't think the Khorne incantations are as good as a lot of the generic endless spells, but we do still have Hexgorger skulls, and that can excuse me, that can really help with. Hang on, how's that? Well, if you can hear me, you can. But Hexgorger skulls does -1 to cast. So that could be very helpful. Hey, settle down. So I was happy about that. That's something that was making me pretty nervous. So maybe I can't cast the kind of stuff that I'd like to, or that would keep up with endless spells, but I should still have the ability to stop endless spells. So that's something I was pretty concerned about. So we looked at points yesterday. I looked at them with Jen, and I was concerned about Blood Warriors being so expensive at 210. But it occurred to me what I think's going on here is you're paying a lot for wounds. Um, Now let's think of like a typical cheap unit is actually 100 points for 10 wounds. You look at the Blood Reavers, 100 points for 10 wounds. Well, Blood Warriors, you're actually only paying 210 points for 20 wounds, right? So wound for wound, they're technically they're only a little bit more expensive in that kind of a mentality than Blood Reavers. And Blood Warriors also have a 3+ save still, and they do still get a Gorglaive. Champions give a unit +1 attack, and the Gorglaive cannot be on the champion, so you can't. Used to be back in the day, you could cheese out and put the Gorglaive on your champion, but they put a stop to that a while back. So that's interesting to me. I don't know how effective they're going to be. Most of the stuff in Khorne hits on a 4+. So we're probably going to be really, really, really wanting the +1 to hit command ability on our stuff. There are other ways to get +1 to hit, I think. I know I can get +1 to wound, and there's some prayers that give you like +1 rend, but we'll take a look at that later. So I don't know that 210 is an unfair price for Blood Warriors. It's probably what they need to be at. In fact, I am almost wondering if it's cheap. Skull Reapers are 220. I don't know if they're going to be worth it. They have a lot of attacks. They do 2 damage. I think that's one of the things I'm having trouble wrapping my head around is traditionally Skull Reapers have always been 1 damage. And you've just kind of relied on buffing their attacks and, you know, getting those 6s to wound to add in mortal wounds to get damage out of them. Now I think they're just straight up better at 2 damage flat. Because you can still give them attacks. You can still give them bonuses to their rolls. So, you know, I'm on the fence about them. I got to see them on the table, but um, Wrathmongers might be a good might be a steal at 150. I don't know. Korgoraths 170. I'm not sure about them. I've never been a big demons guy for Khorne. I've always liked the mortals, so I'm going to play on mortals just because that's the way I want to play. I don't intend to go heavy demons in this. In fact, I don't even have a bloodthirster right now. Settle down. So I did knock up. So I'm probably going to bring Karanak. Um, let's look at the claws of Karanak really quick. They are bloodbound infantry, so in any of the mortals I can take them. But Karanak, he lets Fleshhounds ignore their beast ability. That means Fleshhounds can actually go out and score for you and control. I don't know how important control is because all objectives in Age of Sigmar are sticky objectives. Once you have it, you've got it. I can't remember if that's changed. I did not play that much 3rd edition, but they always used to be sticky, so you could just get the objective and honestly move off and do different things and you'd still score. There's sticky objectives again. So, I mean, even if you go on an empty objective with Fleshhounds and take it, yeah, they're control 1, but it's irrelevant if they're going to move on. It's only relevant if you're fighting on an objective. But Karanak will remove the beast rule, which means they can have a control score of more than 1. If I'm understanding beast correctly, it means you could have a 10-man bloodhound unit that'd still only have 1 control. Take the beast off them, now they have a control of 10. So, you know, it's something I'll have to see in practice, how important that control stuff is. How often you're going to be sitting on an objective and not wiped off the objective to the point where control matters. So we'll see. I don't know how to feel about the character points. I just because I haven't made any armies yet. I've only just had a few minutes to look at the War Scrolls while I was waiting at the doctor. Oh, you old devil! Here. Oh, you want my hot dog? I was having a hot dog for lunch. All right. Spilled my water. Spilled my water, Tam. Let's get that mopped up. That was a lot of water, actually. That was a very full glass. So I'm just going to eat this. All right. we're pretty much ready to go. Yeah, pain in the ass of doing this kind of stuff live. If this was recorded, I could have just cut that out. So anyway, I'm just gonna have to see. Oh, now you want this ice, huh? You can have the ice. You can have that old ice. So now, I think I was talking about the points of characters. I just got to see it. Just got to see it on the table. I think I want a whole bunch of priests. So we just, like I say, it's just going to be something that until I've put together lists, I don't know how to feel about this stuff. And until I've seen how it stacks up to other stuff on the table, I just don't know how I feel about it. Slaughter Priest 160. Where's Realm Gore Ritualist 120? And I think there's a Demon Priest as well, but I don't remember what guy it is. So those prices don't appear to be too bad, but I guess let's compare to something, Hag Queen 140, right? And I'd probably rather have a Slaughter Priest than a Hag Queen. Slaughter Queen, I can't remember if Slaughter Queens are priests or not. Let's compare it to like a wizard, maybe. Sorceress 120, 300 for the Black Dragon. I noticed that we got, gosh, what are they called? Lords on Black Dragons again, or at least I could have sworn I saw it in the wars. Yeah, Dreadlord on Black Dragon. I was excited to see that because I think they've been out of the game for a while. All right, let's get into Blades of Khorne finally. Okay, so let's try and not click on anything. So the only battle trait we have is Blood Tithe, and I'm on the fence about that because it feels like other factions have stuff that's impactful straight from the get-go, and we have to destroy units. We still have Spell Eater Curse. Spell is unbound. So I wish this also was a banish. Maybe it is. Maybe I need to dig into the rules a little more. But this just is a dispel scroll for spells. I do not think this banishes anything. If you just had just a pocket banish you could pull out, I think that would be a huge deal. I think that would be very, very nice. But it looks like it is just for spells. Nobody's ever going to use this. So it says you can set up a non-unique Bloodthirster. I don't know if that means you actually get a free Bloodthirster, or if you you can just put one of your old Bloodthirsters back. I haven't dug into the rules well enough to know that, but my understanding is you can't produce free units anymore. You can just recycle old units, but I'm not certain. And then just if you somehow have 8 Blood Tithe, you can get +1 attack for the rest of the battle on everybody. I don't know how easy that's going to be. Oh my gosh, go away. I think that was under the camera, but I was getting a pop-up for purchasing a better version of Adobe. Murderlust is just move 1 point, move 3 inches in the movement phase. Oh, any movement phase, so it could be the opponent's movement phase as well. So I'm not sure why you would do this on your turn, because it is a move ability. Oh, but it's not a core ability. So maybe you could use this in addition to a normal move. Like I say, I'm not entirely clear on that right now. Let's look at the rule of one. If I can even find it, it might be kind of hard to find. I'm not familiar enough with this rules packet. Is it around here? No, fight abilities. Oh my gosh, I think it's way up. I want to use page up and page down, but here we go. Rules of one. Cannot use more than one core ability per phase. Cannot use the same ability per phase. Okay, so you could. My understanding is you can do a normal move, which is a core move, and Murder Lust on the same target, or you could Murder Lust in your opponent's turn. So that's a 3-inch move. I don't know how useful that's going to be. I think there's a generic like redeploy that everybody can get. It costs us a precious blood tithe point instead of what I think is going to be a less precious command point. And I think one of the reasons command points might be less precious for us is I think that we're not going to be using the shoot on your opponent's turn one. We're going to want to countercharge. So that's one command point or 2 command points right there. I believe countercharge is a double command point ability. No, I'm not going to bother looking for that crap right now. I think it's towards the bottom in the advanced rules. Anyway, so we'll have to see. Has to be a unit that's not in combat, and it doesn't say anything about ignoring combat range. No, it can move into combat. Okay. So 3 inches, you can move into combat during, say, the enemy movement phase. So that changes the math a little bit. Because let's say you got on top of an enemy unit and you don't want them to move, you could potentially Murder Lust and tangle them up before they've moved. I think that could be very, 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 very good, actually. Now that I understand the interactions a little better, that could be pretty powerful, I think. Or let's say somebody moved into you close enough that the 3-inch move will get you into combat range. Because remember, they can be 5 inches apart, I think, or, a hair under 6. As long as you step into their combat range, I don't think they could charge you at that point, and they could lose a whole lot of abilities. And with this as a threat, and if it's a potentially 6-inch threat, you're going to be putting them, instead of them getting close enough for the 3-inch charge, they might back off if it's a big enough deal. I don't know. So I think I do like Murder Lust. Brass Skull, whatever. 8 dice, 3+ is a mortal wound. 4 blood tithe, that'll be hard to get off, but Brass Skull Meteor has actually come in for me a few times in the past. 6 blood tithe, unlikely it's ever going to come off, especially because it seems like some of these armies are lower unit count. Now, with the unit recycling, maybe you're going to get more blood tithe, right? Think about that. Maybe if people are recycling units and maybe they have units that they're okay getting killed in the first place because they know they can bring them back and they come back half strength, they may just be feeding you blood tithe, which would be pretty nice. But this is for the rest of the turn, 1 more rend for all Khorne. It's like you'd have to... 2 blood tithe can be a lot if you've already got 6. but it's almost like you want to just hold out for the 8 if you actually got 6 and see if you can do anything. I don't think. I feel like Slaughter Priest may still have Sacrifice. I didn't look closely at it because I've never been a guy that was like, oh, I've got a Blood Tithe engine. I've seen people play like that. It never plays well. It's just one of those ideas people get. It's like the kid that always says, "Oh man, I leveled up to level 99 just farming Fallen in Diablo 2." And it's like, first off, no, you didn't, because you don't get experience for revived units in Diablo 2. And second, that's a pretty stupid way to play. It would take so long, you know. there's there's no shortage of bad guys in Diablo 2, but everybody claims to have done something like that, or everybody talks about how cool it is. No, it's not. And it's like farming Blood Tithe used to suck. Maybe not anymore. Okay, so here's the battle formations. There's a combined arms one. Pick a bloodbound unit that's not fought. Within 12 inches. Oh, maybe I misunderstood this. Once per turn, you declared a fight action. Yeah, you declared a fight action for a demon. Fight ability immediately. So basically, this is a chain activation. You fight with a demon, you fight with a mortal. This could be very good if you make a combined mortal demon list, and I don't see a real stiff reason not to. It'll just have to come up to what things actually look like when we actually get lists together. I think it could be good because actually there's not that many ways. Remember, I went through this quickly, so I could be wrong here, but I don't think that there's that many ways to chain activate Khorne. For example, the Juggernaut Lord doesn't chain activate Juggernauts anymore. The Aspiring Deathbringer, I think, chain activates, but this is a Khorne Demon unit, and wholly within 12, huh? You know, if you've got like some Bloodletters or something, or some other fighty unit, you know, if you need something else, if you need a coordinated attack to just push the rest of your damage through, that could be cool. Strength through Slaughter, this is one I'm probably not going to use. This is the Demon one. I think it's good. My understanding is 5+ Horde is very strong defensively. So it's just, if they fought, then the swing back, they'll have the 5+ Horde. I think that's helpful because I recall Khorne Demons being very fragile. I think they might have 2 wounds in this, but like I say, I don't focus too much on demons. Brass Stampede, this one's super lame. If you blow out the charge, you get strike first. I just sure, dude. It's just a slot machine, and then it's like, how bad do you really need strike first? You know, like, because you essentially you're gonna strike first with your first unit, unless you're running into somebody with strike first. So what is it like? Oh, this guy blew out the charge. He's got an 8+ charge. So is it unmodified? Yeah, it's the unmodified. So you just have to throw an 8+. And then it's like, oh, they got strike first, so it's safe for me to bring in another Bloodletter unit. You know? I'll have to look at the interaction of strike first, because sometimes the timings are different. I don't know the timings for AOS 4, actually. So I don't know if it's like, okay, my strike first goes, and then I choose a normal speed unit to go, or if it's like my strike first unit goes, and then you pick a unit, and then I pick a normal speed unit. You know, I'm not sure. But I know the way it worked for 40K at one time was like the strike firsters have their own phase, the normal strikers have their phase, and the strike last have their phase. All right. And then the Bloodbound Warhorde, it's +1 to hit for Bloodbound units contesting an objective that I don't control, or that target an enemy that's contesting an objective I don't control. So essentially, that's probably what I would play, because this army needs +1 to hit pretty bad, in my opinion. And this is +1 to hit when you most need it. I need to look at the wording of contesting an objective to figure out if that's like an all the time scenario. I'd like to know if this would count. Let's say somebody had a fast cavalry just pick up an objective turn 1 and leave it. That's an enemy controlled objective because that fast cavalry guy left them behind. Is that fast cavalry still contesting the objective? I might be able to find this fairly quickly, so I'm going to look real fast. This is kind of a big deal, I think. I might have passed it, but I'm going to go a little further. Blah, 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 blah. Advanced abilities. I remember it was like on, here we go, objectives. Contesting an objective. Unless otherwise specified, and its objective is within combat range, they're contesting the objective. If the models in the unit are contesting an objective, all right, so they have to be in combat range of the model. They can only contest one objective per turn. Now here's objective control. This is what I was not sure about. Yes, this is different. So at the start of the battle round, you can take control of an objective, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, control is not the same as contesting. So contesting, they have to be in combat range of the button, of the important MacGuffin you're trying to control. I still think that is, hey, crazy. I still think that is good, because it's +1 to hit. That does not come from using command points, and it will make you more dangerous if you need to push something off an objective, and that thing on the objective is probably more important than something that's not off the objective. All right. So Firebrand, I feel like this is the one. Non-priest becomes priest 1. So he can, that's just an extra banishment right there for endless spells or incantations. But you can see if I put this on a priest, he gets +1 to banishment rolls. Oh, man. Banishments for endless spells. We don't have any banishment tech. That the spell scroll is only for spells, not endless spells or incantations. I might even just take this for the +1. Ruthless Hunter. Man, as far as I'm concerned, this is a bloodthirster thing. I don't know why you'd put this on one of our little baby heroes. Maybe a skull grinder or something. I don't know, but when you murder lust them, they move 6, which is big, right? That's like an extra non-run 6-inch move that you could potentially do on your opponent's turn. It's pretty colossal, right? And then so I think that could be good. I don't know if mortals care. I think that's something you put on a bloodthirster. And that's my initial thought. And then this is you begin with 1 blood tithe point. That actually could be fine, because that means you can murder lust straight off the bat, right? If you need to murder lust for something, I don't exactly know what you would need to do it for yet, because I haven't played this game, but it could give you a straight off murder lust. You'd get your unbind that quicker, so maybe it's not bad, but I think you've got some vehicle for getting blood tithe if you really want blood tithe that bad. We'll take a look at the priest to see if they still have a sacrifice or if there's like a sacrifice incantation. But I really think Firebrand is the one I would take. Artifacts of power. Again, this feels like a bloodthirster artifact. I could see other heroes taking it. No ward rolls against these attacks. So if you're looking at a real combat monster, suddenly you don't get word saves against it. That's going to kill the toughness of a unit that's relying on their ward saves or has access to a ward save. And he should just be able to kill stuff without word saves. So I think the Blade of Kings is going to make a model very, very, very dangerous. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I think it will. Collar of Contempt. You can unbind as if you're a wizard 1. Also, you can deal D3 mortal wounds if you successfully unbind. I don't know. We have unbind tech. We have unbind tech, so I don't see that it's important, and I think our slaughter priests can unbind. So it's like, I just don't know that it's useful. I'd almost want to put a Blade of Kings on somebody that's not optimal for it before I go for this to just get 1 unbind and potentially some mortal wounds. And Hail of Blood is, I like this too. Ignore, who cares about control? Hit and wound rolls for this unit's attacks. So that hero does not take negative hit and wound roll modifiers. That's probably like the one right there, right? I think Blade of Kings and Halo of Blood. Maybe I just since this doesn't have a way of making Unbind more reliable, I just don't feel like I don't necessarily believe it's worth it. Keep in mind, Bloodhounds can't unbind anymore. They lost their Collar of Khorne. I'm a little disappointed with that, but whatever. We'll double check it to make sure I'm not full of it. Okay, so these are the manifestations. So they're all 4s. So that means it's like maybe a coin toss for round 1. It's more of like a guaranteed thing for round 2. Let's see here. Wholly within 12 of the caster, more than 9 from the enemy. Wholly within 12 of the caster, invisible. So that can be on top of somebody because it doesn't fight. And then Hex Scourger Skulls. Wholly within 12, invisible. More than 9 inches from enemy units. And it's a 2-part spell. They have to be within 8 inches of it. Okay. I'm going to skip all the way to the bottom, and we're just going to look at those real quick. So the symbol shuts down command abilities. I don't know if it's worth it. The one thing I would say is I don't see any limit to this reaction. So it looks like every time a command ability is used, within 8 inches of the icon, you get to roll. I mean, if you're rolling super hot, right? If I understand this correctly, you can just shut out command abilities in that 8-inch aura. And remember, it's 8 inches of the symbol, and it's got a fairly large base. It's a pretty big oval. It's not a huge oval, but it's pretty big. The Hex Scourgers, I think, are going to be important because they are, so they're within 8 inches of each other, right? And then, so wizards, friendly and enemy, like we have friendly wizards, subtract 1 from their casting rolls. Okay, so now let's take a quick look at the rules. Is a manifestation, do you use a casting roll to bring them into existence? Or is it called something different? I think that's very important. Because if the Hex Scourgers help to shut down manifestations, I think that is, I think that's a big deal. If they can't, I think it's not as big a deal. All right, hang on. Okay. Maybe it isn't casting. Spells. Make a casting roll of 2d6. All right, so now let's look at how manifestations, endless spells, and incantations. It looks like, I mean, it's not spelled out in black and white here, but it looks like it's a casting roll to bring out a manifestation. If it says it here, I'm just trying to read it too quickly, but it doesn't say, you know, there's a special like incant roll or some bullshit. It looks like it's a casting roll. So this is -1 to cast. One of the problems I have with endless spells is if you look at them, some of them seem crazy powerful and they've got like a freaking 4 to cast. You know, so I don't know how useful it'll really be, but I think -1 to cast could be very pivotal, especially if somebody's trying to summon up like a Khorne spine or something. I think it needs an 8. -1's kind of a big deal, I think. And then each part does have an attack characteristic. So both of them will be putting out 4 of these kind of so-so attacks. What's the move? 8-inch move. Yeah. I think the Hex Scorcher Skulls are still very good. 7+ banishment too. It looks like they're going to be hard to get rid of also. Which the banishment roll, I'm confident is not a cast roll. It's just a banishment roll. So they're not going to reduce the chance of being banished, which would be pretty jacked up. If it was an 8 and it was, or 7+ and it was -1 to banishment, that'd be pretty crazy. Here's our axe, 8-inch move, 7+ banishment, so kind of hard to banish, I think. It's just a fighter. Pick up to 3 enemy units as manifestation passed across this turn. I don't know how you're going to get 3 units because it only moves 8 and the base is colossal on this thing. You might get 1. Unless you clip the edges of a bunch of them or something. I don't know. Roll a d3 for each target. On a 2+, inflict that amount of mortal damage. I've noticed this is like a new thing, is you roll a d3, and on a 2+, essentially on a 3+, you do 1 or 2 mortal wounds. Or 2 or 3 mortal wounds, sorry. Which is, it's interesting. It saves you a roll, and it also skews you high. If you are going to do something. So he has fly, so he ignores combat ranges when he moves. I don't know that he can stop in a combat range, but when he does get into combat, these are good stats. But I don't know if he's as strong as some of the other fighting manifestations I've seen. Let's take a quick look at the Skull Altar because we're here. 10 wounds, 4+ save. Impassable and cover. I haven't read the terrain rules yet, but so I'm assuming they can't climb it. They have to move around it. Okay, Words of Hate. +1 to chanting. I like that. So this is I think for it to have an invoker, it has to have somebody inside of it. So I'm going to just assume that when it refers to invoker, it's referring to a guy inside of it. So the guy would have +1 to chant, So that I think will help his, yeah, because there's not a special rule for manifesting. I think it's just a chanting rule. Um, so that's kind of a big deal. That means you're going to get your manifestations out on a 3+. Um, the invoker cannot move. Um, measure range and visibility from the terrain feature. All attacks that target the invoker target the terrain. That's a fucking big deal. I didn't understand. So essentially, you put a priest in this thing, he's got 10 wounds at a 4+ save. If the terrain feature is destroyed before removing it from the battlefield, inflict D3 mortal wounds on the invoker. Then set the invoker up wholly within 3 inches. I don't know, that's cool. I like that. Your hero phase, ascend the altar. Declare this terrain feature. If this terrain feature does not have an invoker, put a Blades of Khorne infantry priest within 3 inches to the target, so it could be a demon. Place target on this terrain feature. He's now the invoker. Descend the altar, you just get off of it and deploy wholly within 6 inches. That unit is no longer the invoker. So interesting to me, I don't see anywhere where this says movement or move or core, so I think you can just get out and still take your turn. Reaction. A friendly unit within 18 inches of this terrain feature was picked to be the target of an enemy spell. Roll a die on a 5+. This terrain feature, if this terrain feature has an invoker, gain a blood tithe and ignore the effect of the spell. Cannot use this ability more than once per phase. But you can only roll one. Wait, hang on. The terrain feature can use this ability more than once per phase, but you can only roll once per each friendly unit per cast. Ooh, I love it. I thought they were going to nerf it into oblivion, and it wasn't going to do anything anymore. I'm happy. +1 to chant. Basically shielding the hero, and then also giving you a spell protection. You know, weak spell protection, but a 5+, that's nothing to sneeze at. That could, I've rolled plenty of 5+s for spell protection before. And then potentially getting a blood tithe for it. I like that. And, you know, that's a free upgrade, right? That's not something that, and I'm definitely taking priests, so I'm not like, oh, there's a priest text. You'd still get the spell protection even if you didn't have the priest, but whatever. All right. So these guys are a little easier to cast, and I actually think Hex Scourgers are, that's probably, I'm going to be casting the hell out of them, and they're free anyway. And all my priests know all of them, so I don't know. I hope they keep up. These are the prayers. So it's a +1 rend, and the super cast is also +1 to wounds. Should be fine. You know, it's a high cast value, but I think this is when you might store the points up for the next round and hope that you can get a 10+. Witchbane Curse. So this I also really like, 4+. So 18 inches, right? And if we're in the altar, it's a little wider. You either chant out a endless spell or you chant out a prayer. So maybe you wouldn't be able to do this. I don't think we have any priest 2s that I'm aware of. I'll double check the keywords. But subtract 1 from their power level to a minimum of 0. I'm so glad that's a minimum of 0, not a minimum of 1. Because if it was minimum of 1, it'd be marginal. I think there's very few power level 2 wizards nowadays. And even then, it's like, well, I'm still a wizard. Yeah, you knocked one spell off my block, but I don't give a shit. But you can actually kill a wizard that way. In addition, if the chanting roll was 8 plus, which isn't that high, inflict 3 mortal wounds. Just a flat 3 to that fucking bitch wizard. Love it. Blood Boil is way weaker. It's just roll a die equal to the number of models. For each 5 plus, deal a mortal wound. If it's 8 plus, you subtract 1 from their wound rolls. Yeah, whatever, it's here or there. Everybody's going to know it. You can only do it once. This is the unlimited one, the +1 rend, but it is harder to cast. So you can cast this as many times as you want. I really like Witchbane Curse. I don't know how it's going to actually be on the table, but anything to fuck over a wizard. With the way these endless spells are looking, that's what I want. Scarbrand, my understanding is he's good. I don't really care what his stats are. I'm not going to play him. I mean, I don't know. I might get a Bloodthirster at some point. So I'm not too worried about this. I'm more on the lookout for, oh, he's got a 5+ ward, so he's probably as tough as a monster could be. Wrath of Khorne, 4+ save, 16 wounds. It's a multiple of 8. I'm sure they did that on purpose. 5+ ward, nice. Insensate Rage, 5+ ward. Yeah, good. They have the 5+ ward. By the way, I think these are one of your only shooting units, are these Bloodthirsters, the Fire Breath and the Lash of Khorne. Karnak, I'm going to spend a little time on him because I'm probably actually going to play him because he lets me take Flesh Hounds. I don't think you can take Flesh Hounds in a mortal army unless you take Karnak or a demon hero. So I may not take Flesh Hounds anymore. Like, it may be very awkward to put them in, or I'd maybe even take them as an auxiliary if I really feel like I have to have them. So his big thing is stalk the prey. If the enemy moves, he can make a 8-inch move in their movement phase. Cool. He removes Beast from Flesh Hounds wholly within 12, and he adds 2 to their charge rolls. They already have +2, so he's giving them +4 to charge. All right, that's pretty freaking crazy. +4 to charge in this game is pretty nuts. And then Prey of the Blood God, it's just you need to pick a hero to be his stock. He gets +1 rend versus heroes. 4+ to hit, 3+ to win. That's kind of the standard for this army, and I think a lot of units have those profiles. Skull Taker, are you a priest? No. Flesh Hounds, Beast, max control score of 1. Unflagging Hunters, add 2 to the charge rolls of the unit. Let's double check how passives stack. Because I think they get +4 charge. But it will all depend on the rules of 1, because it talks about passives and stacking there. A unit cannot be affected by the same passive ability more than once in the phase. Abilities that have the passive timing are called passive abilities. Not declared. They always apply when the conditions are met. So I think they stack. Maybe there'll be more advanced rules later that say they don't because they're both, I don't know, add to charge, but I think these guys get +4 charge rolls. Anti-Wizard, +1 rend. This is a big deal. Korgoraths have this also. They just have the companion rule. And what that means, if I understand correctly, is they cannot get any bonuses. Companion. Okay, companion. This weapon is not affected by abilities used by a friendly unit that affect the attack's characteristic or the attack sequence. So if I understand that correctly, and I might not be understanding that correctly, you can't give them bonus to attacks, you can't give them +1 to hit, you can't give them +1 rend, you can't give them +1 damage, you can't do any of that stuff because they have the companion keyword. But they can still get debuffed. So like if an opponent has -1 to hit, they'll still get -1 to hit, right? Because it's by friendly units. Now, hopefully they'll put out a little clarification to make it more clear, but there's a little clarification here. It says companion weapon ability restricts things like mounts from benefiting from most effects that augment a unit's capabilities. Now they use the word most in there, which makes me think maybe there's some effects that aren't covered that I'm not grasping, but I think so they did that to Fleshhounds, and they did that to Quarteraths, and I think that's the only ones that I know of. But +4 charge, and that little anti-wizard rend. I remember there's going to be 5, so that's 20 attacks. Even at a 4+, I think that could still be very meaningful. You might be able to meaningfully turn these guys into wizard hunters. 6+ ward. And they're a Khorne demon. So that's another thing. Maybe you can use them to help you chain activate if you were using that first battle trait. But I'm not sure. I like Fleshhounds a lot. I'm going to try and make them work. I don't know if I can make them work, but I'm going to try. But I see roles for them, but it's going to be difficult because of that companion, and also because it's going to be hard to fit them into a mortal list. We'll see. Bloodmaster, are you the priest? Yeah, priest one. So this Bloodmaster here is a demon priest. So the demons get, you can go pure demons and still have bloodletters. Let's take a quick look. So they have two wounds, 5-inch move, not super fast, not super slow. I think that's regular move. 6+ ward. That's what Fleshhounds had, right? Yeah. For some reason I was thinking 5+ when I saw their 6+. Okay. I'm not going to look too close at these. It looks like they have some healing. And if you take that one battle formation, their ward would go up to a 5+. Same with the Fleshhounds. So 5+ ward plus healing in combat. Maybe these guys have more staying power than they did traditionally. 2 wounds each as well. And it's D3 slain models. Whew. So it's bringing back 2 wound models for the D3. Maybe they're going to be more. Maybe they're going to have a lot more sustain than I would think. Like I say, I don't take this stuff, so I'm not too concerned about it. Claws of Khorne. You can bring them in a Khorne regiment. 3 attacks, 4+, 3+. And then they have exploding crits. And then if they're within range of Fleshhounds, they crit on a 5+. And then what's Scent of Blood? When can I declare that? Oh, just in the deployment phase. They've got a scout move of 6. You know, I don't know if Claws of Khorne are going to be any good. I'd probably have to just math them out. They do get a champion. There's only 8 of them, 1 wound, and you don't get any special stats for having the big pretend guy. Realmgore Ritualist, I think, is good because remember, I was like, we're hungry for +1 hit. This is a +1 hit thing. So she can corrupt a terrain feature, and wholly within 12 inches of that terrain feature, you get +1 to hit rolls all the time. I like it. She's also a priest. Oh, thank goodness. I was like, I didn't actually check. I just presumed she was a priest. Excellent. I think I'd just certainly take her. Is this once per army? once per battle army. So there's no reason to take more than one unless you're certain she's going to die before she can corrupt a terrain feature. Mighty Lord of Khorne, he has strike first on a mortal unit. And this is in the combat phase. So this is difficult. The reason I think this is difficult, if this was once per turn hero phase, I think it'd be easy to get off. You just throw it on him, and then maybe Bloodstokers let you run in charge. Maybe you run in charge, maybe you murder lust, who knows, but you just rocket that unit out to do its strike first thing. It's a little better, I think, than chain activations. I think it depends on the strike first timing. I should really just read it, but I want to spend time with strike first and make sure I really understand it. All right. We didn't get anything on the search. Let's try strike. Yeah, strike first and strike last. Let's just read it. Let's just stop screwing around. Oh my goodness. If there are any strike first units in combat, at the start of the phase, other units cannot be picked to use a fight ability until those units have been picked. After all the strike first units have fought, the active player picks the next unit to fight. All right, awesome. So it works the way that I thought is the strike first goes, a new phase essentially starts, and the active player gets to pick the unit. So it's like it's a little better than a chain react or a chain activation, especially because you don't have to activate the Mighty Lord of Khorne. You might have another unit going at regular speed, and so you get the strike first unit and the other unit. It's just I think it's a little hard to do because he needs to be there in the combat phase. This slow mother lover needs to be there in the combat phase, and maybe that's why you have the 6-inch murder lust. You just murder lust him to keep him up with other guys that he can't keep up with. I don't know. We'll see. His profile's not bad, and then bloodbound infantry get +1 to charge rolls while they're wholly within 12. He doesn't seem bad. Juggernaut Core, Lord. I don't know if these stats are any good. They don't look particularly great to me. But I haven't done the math on him yet. And I don't know what the comparative damage of other stuff yet. But any charge phase. If this unit charged, oh, this is just his on a D3, on a 2+, inflict that mortal damage. This is the one we want. Brass Stampede. All right, so Blades to Khorne Cavalry get this effect. So actually the demons also get this effect. They have to be wholly within 18, which is pretty good range. Add 1 to the charge rolls for those units. You can re-roll crushing charge rolls. So that doesn't feel strong to me. That feels kind of weak. That is a reasonable amount of mortal wounds, but I'm pretty sure it's just the whole unit makes 1. We'll double check, because for some reason I feel like they're identical to this, the D3 on a 2+. But you never know. It could be on a 5+, they deal 1 mortal wound or something like that, so we'll double check. But that just feels weak. I couldn't imagine wanting this guy. I don't think these stats are enough for me to be like, oh yeah, he's a great combat hero and he has the added benefit of something else. He's got no special thing for his weapon. It's just 6, 3+3+, 1 rend, 2 damage. It's not trash, but I don't know that it's going to be worthwhile. Rage of Khorne, once per battle per army. +1 attacks for the turn. Right, that's what he's always pretty much done. He used to be able to do it for longer than 1 round, but that's like your power round. And then he gives you, you can make 3 additional rally rolls. So he still has his rally. He doesn't have like a totem keyword, and I haven't seen anything that interacts with totem. I think that's just a gone are the days of totems. I didn't actually look at Scar. I don't own a Scar Bloodwrath. Let's just take a quick look. If he's in combat, add 1 to the attacks of Wrathmongers. So Wrathmongers, if I recall, give +1 attacks to everybody else still, but they don't get it themselves, so I guess he just gets it to them as well. Any movement phase. This unit can use this ability if it's been destroyed. Roll 2d6. On an 8+, set up a replacement unit on the battlefield more than 9 inches from enemy units. Okay, so he's he can just keep coming back. Any movement phase. I don't think there's a limit on that. I think you could just keep rolling it. And since it's any movement phase, I think you can do it. Doesn't say like once per round or once per turn or anything. Like you can't use it more than once, obviously. But what I'm trying to say is like I could roll it on my opponent's movement. Then the very next movement phase, which is mine, I could roll it. Then the next movement phase, which is the opponent's, I could roll it until he comes back. Could be interesting. I don't know why the hell they kept Scar. I think Valkyria's gone. I'm kind of sad of that, but you know, she was fine cast. They never made a plastic Valkyria. We've got her. She's in Drosta. Slaughter Priest. So the basic Slaughter Priest, like I was saying, can unbind. Good. All right, Blood Sacrifice. This is what I was wondering about. Roll a d3 on a 2+, inflict that amount of mortal damage on the target unit, which has to be a friendly unit in combat range, gain a blood tithe point. So that's once per turn per army, so you cannot stack that. I don't know how I feel about it. It might be worthwhile, but I mean, you can heal back the models somehow. I don't know all of the healing abilities that we have in the game, but I think there's some generic rally and stuff like that. So maybe you could just rally back his sacrifice unit. So I don't know. And this is not a prayer. It used to be a prayer, I think, which sucked. This is just an ability once per turn. So that's potentially good. Priest 1. Yeah, I don't think there's any such thing as a priest 2 around here. Skull Grinder, 3+ save, 5+ move. He's not super slow, fortunately. It'd be 2 rending against monsters. He can give, once per battle, he can give another hero a permanent +1 rend. That seems nice. What's his points? What's old Skull Grinder's points? You know, he's got to look at the points these days. Skull Grinder, 150. I don't think that's very expensive compared to everything else I can get. Exalted DB, 130. Bloodstoker, 110. He gives you a valuable buff, or what I think is going to be a valuable buff. I don't know how often this Bone Crushing Strikes would go off, but he almost feels like he's kind of a little anti-monster tech. I know it says it right on his war scroll, but 2 rend against a monster, I think, is relevant. Because most monsters that I know of usually have lower saves, like a 4+ or a 5+ save. If it's a 5+, they get no save against him. If it's 4+, then they're on 6s. So there's a chance to stun the monster, but I think it's pretty unreliable. You only have 4 attacks. You're just fishing for a 6. That's, you know, if you get it, you get it. I like Skull Grinders. They've never been that particularly effective, but I usually try to field one if I can. I normally can't, but I'll try and put my Skull Grinder on the table if I can. Aspiring Deathbringer, he's got chain activations. Oh, hang on just a second. I don't understand how that wound thing works. I thought this was just chain activation. Blood Warriors only. If the unit has not fought and is in combat range of the target can be picked to use a fight ability immediately after the fight ability is used by this unit, which is the Aspiring DB. If it is picked to do so, add 1 to the wound rolls for attacks made by this unit and the target for the rest of the turn. Oh, nice. So I'm pretty sure Blood Warriors are 3+ to wound, so he makes himself and the Blood Warriors 2+ to wound. Still that 4+ to hit, but remember we have access to +1 to hit. I think we have good access to +1 to hit. So that's interesting. Might see the old Aspiring Deathbringer on the table again with some Blood Warriors. I'm going to have to try them out. But a lot of this depends on the math, too. Like, are these guys actually points efficient? How points inefficient are they if they are? How's their damage? Do I really need this guy? Do I really need his 7 attacks and the +1 to wound to go off? Or were they actually okay on their own? I don't know. The Exalted DB, there's only one kind now. And they just gave him Deathbringer weapons. So the Spear and the Axe guy are now the same. 3 damage on it. I think this is identical stats to the Skull Grinder. 4 attacks, 4+, 3+. Which is, I think, is bad. 4 attacks, 4+, 3+, yeah. I think he has anti-monsters, so he could get an extra point of rend. But I think this is bad. I don't think 4 attacks, 4+ to hit is very good. We'll have to see. Now he heals. So if he kills an enemy, or if an enemy unit dies, and he allocated damage to that unit this turn, the turn that it was destroyed, he heals 5, and he gets a Glorious Ascent token. And his Glorious Ascent token gives him +1 attack. So supposedly he's powering up through the round, but he doesn't have chain activation, you know what I'm saying? Like, is he gonna go just finish somebody off? Is he gonna, like, take out a hero? I mean, that 3 damage, it's only 4 attacks, but that 3 damage, maybe if you power him up, he'll just axe a hero, get his heal, and get +1 attack. There doesn't appear to be a limit on these. I think there was another guy that got tokens, and it was like they could have a max of X tokens. But I don't see a limit for Glorious Ascent tokens, so who knows. 5+ ward. I really need to pay attention to these because he only has a 5+ save, but he's also got a 5+ ward. I think that's actually not bad. Blood Reavers, you'll notice +1 rend if they charged. Okay. Axes and dual weapons are now the same, which is fine with me. You know what? I actually built all my Blood Reavers axes because back in first edition, I thought that the 2-handed axe was just better than the dual blades. But then they made the dual blades better, like by a country mile. They had a better to hit roll, and they were otherwise pretty much identical. And then now it doesn't matter. However I built him is fine. I don't have to get more Blood Reavers. And I don't want more Blood Reavers because I think I've got like 40. But +1 rend on the charge. You'll notice they don't have any shenanigans like, oh, they get +1 attack for being next to a hero and having a totem and da-da-da. You used to be able to really buff up their attacks. 6+ save. No ward. So they're just going to fall apart. Uh, I'm not sure I would even take them. You like I would need a very serious reason to ever take them, like just to sacrifice them for the blood tithe or something like that. I don't know exactly what you do with them. I don't even know if I would take them as a screen because they're still 100 points, right? What if I just take blood warriors to try to screen and then I don't know. So it's going to take some thinking because these are so fragile. And if you're able to take that 200 point unit of blood warriors or 210, not only are they almost the same points per wound, but the blood warriors I think may even do more. They actually have the same damage stats. I think. I don't know. We'll have to look. 4+ to hit, 3+ to wound, 2 attacks. You figure you would get 20 of these guys for the points of the blood warriors. That's potentially 40 attacks if you could get them. 41 attacks if you can get them all in range. I don't know that you could, but 3 inches is very far. I know. 40k was insane. It was like some guy that's within 2 inches of a model that's within 2 inches is in range or some bullshit. Maybe it was within an inch of an inch, but it was huge. I think the 3 inches is going to be big. I think it's going to be massive. I think you can probably get some big units in. I haven't measured to see how big of a unit you can get in, but I think you're going to get in some big freaking units. Skull Crusher, I'm a Skull Crusher's lover. Very expensive right now, but I think it's because they have this 2+ save and 5 health. They're so tanky. And I mean, you can still give them all out defense to just ignore some of the rends. There's so much rend out. But on a charge, they're +1 damage. That makes me believe they have some real damage potential. I could be wrong. Here's their charge. Yeah, it works exactly the same as everybody else. D3, 2+, deal that mortal wound. So I just don't feel like, and it's for the unit. It's not per model in the unit. I just don't feel like the hero on Skull Crusher is worth it. I'll get some games in. We'll see. Skull Reapers. I'm really on the fence about these guys. I'm not sure how I'm feeling about them. So Trial of Skulls just gives them control score. So essentially they're beasts. Until they have like slain a unit, right? Yeah. Until they have killed a unit, they're literally beasts. They have a control score of 1. I don't know why they did that to these guys. I think it's kind of jacked up because they're not particularly tanky in the first place. But they made it so it's fucking, you have to do this cute little like kill a unit in order to even contest an objective with them. So I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know if they're pointed aggressively enough and they're effective enough to make me do this cutesy shit to just be a pain in the ass. So this is one thing I've been having trouble wrapping my head around though, is I've got to see what they can do on the table or at least math it out because they're 2 damage now. They've never been 2 damage before that I've ever been aware of. Their hit is poor, but again, we've got access to +1 to hit, and there's always all-out attack. For attacks, the little mutation attack is gone, so they're going to be 21 attacks because they're allowed their champion. But this is going to be a 21 attack unit, 4s and 3s, 1 rend, 2 damage. Maybe the damage is there, and I'm just not accounting for that 2 damage. Like maybe, and then it's crit mortals. Those aren't in addition. It's just they deal the mortals and the attack sequence ends. But since they're 2 damage, I think that's fine. So I've got to see what they can do. They're not that expensive, truly. I think they're 230, and I'm starting to come around to the idea that that's not so bad. So we'll see how they are. I should be able to get them +1 to hit pretty easily or pretty effectively. I can also get some rend on them and potentially buff their wounds. So we'll see. I've got plenty of these guys, so we'll see. Wrathmongers, 4 attacks, 4+ to hit, 3+. So it's the same except they have 1 damage, exploding 6s, and so they give +1 attack characteristic to Bloodbound with it wholly within 12 inches. It's basically something they've always done. And then another thing that they've always done is hurt people that fight them. And so if all of your enemies' ones to hit inflict a mortal wound on themselves. So I feel like Wrathmongers, I've never really used them that much because they were so unreliable. Their attacks never seemed to do anything. And then the +1 attack, it wasn't that effective. But I kind of like this reflecting the ones back on the opponent. I think that's going to actually do a shit ton of damage. There's not that much reroll now. It feels like, I haven't seen so much, oh, you always reroll ones to hit, or you always reroll all hits, or something like that. So if somebody rolls into these guys, or if these guys roll into somebody, and that opponent has to fight back, they're only 150 points. And let's say you're fighting a unit that's got, 100 attacks. They might kill themselves fighting these guys. So I'm interested to see what's going on. There might be some good kamikazes. Those should do damage while they're there. As I've said repeatedly, +1 to hit's not hard to get in this army. In the game in general, but I think in this army we get a lot of access to +1 to hit, and we have to use it. Blood Warriors, 2 health, 3+ save. They get the Goreglaive. Oh, it's 4+ to hit. For some reason I was thinking it's a 3+. 4+ to hit, 2 rend, 2 damage. Each time a model in this unit is slain by a combat attack, and that model was in combat with the attacking unit, roll 2d6. For each 5+, inflict 1 mortal damage on the attacking unit. So, 2 5s is a higher likelihood of succeeding than a 4+. I've had somebody explain the math to me. I just remember, basically a re-roll of a worse value is better than the better value. So if I have a 3+ armor save and I re-roll it, it's better than a 2+ armor save statistically. But this has the added bonus is if you just roll hot, that's 2 mortal wounds for getting the guy killed. I wouldn't rely on it, but they still have that ability, and I thought that was kind of nice. I made mine all with gore fists, and it kind of sucked because I felt like axes were better for a lot of the times I was playing these guys, because I think we got like +1 attack or some shit at one point. Now it's just the same. It's fine with me. I'm definitely going to try out Blood Warriors. In fact, I don't think I like Blood Reavers. I just think they're not cheap enough. Bloodstoker, he gives what I think is going to be a very valuable buff, which is run and charge. He needs to be within 3 inches of the unit to do it, but he's going to give them run and charge. I think that's important. Korgoraths. So look at this. Korgoraths have companion. I don't like that. Meaning you can't give them... My understanding, like I said, I could be very wrong about this. You can't give them bonus attacks. So no bonus attacks, no improvement to anything they do. It's rough. There's stat lines, and this is the thing I don't like is relatively low attacks, I think, and the 4+ to hit. I could easily see all those 5s failing, or maybe getting 1 hit and no wounds. You do get bone tentacles, but and they're shooting combat, but I don't know. They always heal a flat 3 as long as they're in combat. So you have a ward? No ward. Right? No ward. 5+ save. That could be pretty rough to deal with. And they don't have any other way to buff them, right? Like they used to have, there was ways to make Korgoraths better at the army level. And then it was like, okay, well, I can use a command ability on them, or I can use one of my many Khorne buffs on them. No, a companion now. As far as I understand, they can't get anything. But they have this ability. Their rampage is pick an enemy unit in combat with them to be the target. This is any combat phase. On a 3+, they can't use command abilities for the rest of the turn. All right, I think that's very, very big deal. I wonder if you would consider taking a Korgorath just for that. 3+ ain't guaranteed, obviously, but a 3+ is a pretty likely roll to make. And then your opponent has to focus him down, because if they don't, if they just try to be like, oh, well, these 2 spearmen will try and chip him down, he'll just keep healing. But I like Korgoraths. I'm going to try and make them work. I think they're just this rampage. I think the Korgorath is nothing but this rampage ability, pretty much. Because 5 attacks on 4+ to hit, no way to change that, I think is going to be too rough. They've got to help somebody out, and I don't think they're going to really be able to sustain. Even with this heal, I feel like they're still just going to get gobbled up if they're by themselves. They're a unit. You can reinforce them to have 2 Korgoraths, but I feel like I'd rather have 2 separate Korgoraths. And they'd be almost 300 points, right? They'd be more than 300 points. It'd be 340 points for 2 of them, and I just don't think it's worth it. And it's not like you get another roll. This is once per turn per army. There's almost not even a point in having 2. Or I guess maybe you'd have 2, but oh my gosh, that almost 350 points for them? I don't know. So I'm on the fence about these guys, but I like Korgoraths, so I might see if I can put them on the table. I'm not sure if you can buy Korgoraths right now. Let's take a quick look. All right, Warhammer. Always dangerous to open a browser streaming. There's no telling what else is going to show up, but Age of Sigmar, Chaos, Blades of Khorne. So currently, the only way to get them is in this start collecting. And my understanding is start collectings are going the way of the dodo. Now this one says temporarily out of stock. And I believe it might be truly temporarily out of stock, because the only way to get a Korgorath, a Bloodstoker, and a Mighty Lord of Khorne is this start collecting. Or eBay, obviously. I got mine off eBay way back in the day. Let's check to see if I'm wrong about that, if they've got them in separate box sets. At one point, the Mighty Lord of Khorne and Vandus were in their own boxes, but I think that went away. These guys are gone. The Trozen of Drome. I never had Drome. I wanted to buy him because I think in third edition he looked like he could be okay. Um, Here's the Vanguard. I think this is replaced. This is kind of silly. So you can get the free Slaughter Priest from the White Dwarf on his own, but you can't get like half of those other useful characters, and they put him in the Vanguard. Um, Looks like people are wanting to play Khorne. Yeah. Oh, Karnak is out off. I got lucky because I had a person in my hobby group bought a shit ton of I think it was like a Slaanesh Khorne demon box because he needed them. So he had a crap ton of extra Karnaks. So he just gave me one. Um, Saved me $42, I guess. But I like having a hobby community. I always hook people up with free stuff because, like, if you get, if I had 3 Karnaks, what the hell am I going to do with the other two? I guess I could use them for hobby fodder, but I think it's much better to just give them off to people. Um, and I've done the same thing a lot of times with Blood Bowl miniatures because you get so many extra players, and then you have players that are trying to do like the mixed teams, like Underworlds and Chaos Renegades and stuff, and they just need like one elf or something like that, and you've got 6 extra elves. It's just a cool thing to do. Um, yeah, so I do not see anywhere that you can get the Mighty Lord of Khorne, the Whipper, or the Blood Secrator either. Actually, I didn't see a Blood Secrator, and they've classically like this start collecting was like this is like the launch box for Age of Sigmar, like the launch of Age of Sigmar as a game. And they still haven't reboxed this crap. I don't know if they're ever going to. I feel like they've got to because they got to get these start collectings off the market. I think this is like the last start collecting there is. Yeah, they don't even list it here, but they're all just vanguards, spearheads, and combat patrols now. They don't have start collectings anymore. That's the only start collecting that exists still. I couldn't see him making it a spearhead because we have a separate spearhead. All right, well, family just got back, so I'm going to leave it for here. Khorne look fine. I got to get them on the table. They need the +1 to hit buffs. They have +1 to hit buffs. They have anti-magic tech. They have anti-manifestation tech. I think they'll be okay. I just got to play them and see. I like the new Skull Altar. I like the Mortals fine. All right, I hope you guys found this interesting.